Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming and a live stream with a difference, because this one is not a let's play of 5 dates or Project Zomboid. A couple of weeks ago I told those of you who tuned in that we were going to be doing a live stream of a Curseborne character creation session. And that is exactly what I am here to do today. So, as you can see, we have the unofficial Curseborne character sheet in the centre there, created by the incredibly talented Chris Jones. Thank you very much, Chris. The official one isn't going to be created yet because while the tinkering behind the scenes in Curseborne is pretty minimal at this point, all told, that doesn't mean there isn't going to be some, and therefore there's no point creating an official sheet if we're then going to have to change it again before release. So for now we're using the unofficial sheet, which contains much of everything we should need for the sake of this particular exercise. And I want to say hello to those of you who are tuning in live to help out with this live stream. After all, I'm not going to be creating a character in a vacuum here. What we're going to be doing is creating a character based on viewer requests, suggestions, and such like. I find that kind of character creation session goes a lot better. It's a lot more interesting for people who are watching live if you actually have a say in what kind of character we're going to build. So let's see if we do have anyone watching live. I see we do have some live viewers right now, so thank you very much for tuning in so swiftly as well. And what I'm going to be doing while all this is going on, I'm just going to load up a video of my own, not for you to watch, but because I need to check it out. You see, as I say, a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that I was going to be doing a character creation session, and during that video I requested that people come up with various suggestions for characters we might want to create, and the highest rated suggestion was from Galileo Persons 2045, who wanted a mortal conspiracy theorist doomsday prepper turns into a raptor, so that's one of the Primal I created for this game. Someone who fears the world is run by lizard people actually becomes a lizard person. Would be interesting to see how you would build such a character and integrate them into a crew, or what story beats you would center the character on. So that's not a bad one. Not a big fan of the lizard people conspiracy whole thing. Not your suggestion, Galileo Person. That's not bad. But I find that's a little overplayed myself. But I do like the idea of a conspiracy theorist doomsday prepper type who then becomes a raptor. I would also say that the vast majority of doomsday preppers are probably quite advanced in age. It's rare that you'd get a teenager or early 20s doomsday prepper. You tend to have been through a fair amount of crap before you can accept that sort of worldview. So we're talking someone in their middle age, maybe a little older. Now, we also had a suggestion from Serendipitous5949, who suggested, would love to see any character creation for the They Came From games. Well, you're in luck, Serendipitous5949, because if this video goes well, we will do character creation for They Came From games too. Adrian, XG5RK, because everyone on here is some kind of android or AI, requested a scholar, university professor perhaps, turned battleground angel who wants to understand the outside and liminal spaces. I was thinking a defensive fighter support type character that helps the other battleground angels take over and cleanse liminal spaces so they can study them in peace. So a Giles type from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's an interesting character idea. James Ellsbury wants to see an ex-convict who awoke to their nature as an accursed while in prison. Maybe a Hyde. Not so sure on the actual family. Well, Hydes are a family, so that could work out. We got some other high-rated comments here. Sound mixer, boom mic technician says, what is Life 42? Turned Battleground Angel of Gabriel. Battleground Angels are a very popular family, I've discovered, in running Curseborne now across multiple groups. Battleground Angels are one of those families lots of people go for, which is interesting, because I remember when we first started announcing the family names, there was at least 1 or 2 people who really thought Battleground Angel doesn't sound appealing at all, but then all of a sudden people have just jumped on the idea, so it's always interesting to see a divisive idea. Works on a ghost hunter type film crew to investigate liminal spaces and other accursed situations. Ready to step in as needed, but ready to sound the horn if things get too dangerous or the family needs to be aware of something. And we have the slightly more subdued from DJ Kehoe 4480. Soldier who comes home after being discharged becomes a Verare. So that isn't a deep concept, but a veteran who develops a hunger for souls is a good idea. I'll just cover a couple more of these. Deranged Goblin 429 asks for an archivist computer hacker who encountered something supernatural as a mortal while trying to break into another system. Maybe he became accursed at this point. Maybe he became obsessed with the supernatural at this point, and eventually encountered something else that made him accursed. He now uses his computer skills to track down supernatural phenomena, either online or offline. He also blogs about the supernatural, both to educate people about the supernatural world and its dangers, and as a means of sacrifice. Very good stuff, Deranged Goblin, because you're thinking sorcerers and sacrifice. And this archivist exposing secret knowledge, making secrets public, is exactly the kind of thing archivists would be expected to sacrifice. Now, let's see if we're getting any comments on the live stream. If you are watching live, please do comment on the stream. Please give us a thumbs up as well. It helps with the algorithm. I am reliably informed that, well, and I say this all the time, I don't need your validation. I don't need your thumbs up for my sake. But my understanding is it makes the notification that this video has gone live go up faster on various people's phones, tablets, whatever, the more engagement it has. That means comments, likes is all good to get more people watching. So, Ham and Egg Sani, hello Ham and Egg Sani, says, I think a Doomsday Prepper finding out about the existence of liminal spaces could be a fantastic thing to explore. I am also leaning Doomsday Prepper, not in real life. Katya Fan is saying hi, and so is Peter. Thumbs up. Hello Peter, good to see you. Okay then, well, I would suggest then that we start throwing ourselves into this full-throatedly. Bro Meliad is also a big fan of Doomsday Prepping. It seems most of my subscribers on this channel are into their Doomsday Prep. I don't know why. Maybe they watched my video from last Friday, My Gentleman's Guide to Vampires, and they realised, oh god, the end is truly coming because he's gone back to that series. So, yes, Curseborne live character creation. We are talking Doomsday Prepper. So I think let's start off with our character sheet. Character type, we're going to go for Doomsday Prepper. And here is where you get to enjoy the sound of my machine gun typing. I can't really help that, but I do still have a mechanical keyboard, and I would not be without it. Now, in terms of role path, this immediately tells me something. Immediately, because role paths are completely customizable in Curseborne. There are some Story Path Ultra games where role paths are, well, where you have 3 paths and each one is equally weighted. A role path in Curseborne is it will always be a minor path. It is an assist, a crutch, a guideline, something that will help point your character on their way and purchase certain skills. For me, I am going to go for role path of survivalist, which I think makes perfect sense if we're playing some kind of... So it's difficult to actually see from all the way over here. Survive a list. There we go. Serendipitous says Doomsday Prepper be perfect because of all the internal conflict of not being able to trust your other preppers suddenly. Very good. Silent Slade, I just want to point out naming a section edges sounds dirty as hell. It would be worse, Silent Slade, if it was called edging. So you take your mind out of the gutter. In a recent game of mine, we had the wrestler Edge and the guitarist from U2, The Edge, in a figure 4 leg lock while participating in an edging competition. And which one was the true Edge was the question. This character is not going to be a party to that kind of filth, I have to say. So, anyway, what we are looking at next is what do we want our lineage path and our family path to be. Now, the suggestion on my video, in my video comments, the really popular one was a Raptor Doomsday Prepper. We also had a suggestion further down of an Outcast Doomsday Prepper, which I think there's definitely a ring of authenticity to Outcasts being Doomsday Preppers. Given that they know that there's something awful just waiting on the other side of the fabric of reality. But what do people watching live want to see? Do you want to see a Primal, an Outcast, or maybe someone else, maybe some other lineage be created here? I'll just check the comments. Bromeliad says, Ray Mealy, he's very nice and soft and knows how to make a decent cup of 3 weeks into the wilderness. That is a valuable trait, especially if you run out of tea. So, live viewers, I'm dependent on you. Comment in the chat, which lineage would you like to see? Right now, we're looking at Primal or Outcast, but if you have a particular preference to a character created for another one of the lineages, now is a very good time for us to see what that kind of character would look like. Louis Garcia wants to see an Outcast. Good taste, Louis. I'm a big fan of the Outcasts, but I'm also a very big fan of the Primal. And Peter is also on the Outcast train. Silent Slade, this is his first time seeing Curseborne. Oh, wow, okay, Joshua FLCL is coming in with a Primal now. And I'm going to start entering Auctioneer Voice. Let's see if anyone else is going to place a bid. We currently have 2 bids on the Outcast. We have 1 bid on the Primal, and we have 1 bid on I don't know. I've never seen Curseborne before. Let's see if we get another bid coming in all the way over from the Hungry or maybe the Sorcerers. And we got a Primal, a Hide, coming from DJ Kehoe, Master Kehoe. Primal Hide. We've got not only the lineage, but we've also got the family specification. Is anyone going to come in from the left? Maybe we're going to see a sorcerer coming in just from the dark side of the moon. No, right now it is Outcast, Primal, tied in the middle, and Silent Slade is choosing the other option no one else has picked. So that is no help whatsoever, Silent Slade, but thank you very much for offering something. Ham and Exani, Primal Hide would be interesting. Okay, and then we got Jonathan Kinzierski, whose surname I have probably mangled, wanting to see a sorcerer. Real dark horse entering the race now. But currently, Primals are dominating the Outcasts. So, and now Silent Slade wants a sorcerer as well. Oh, okay, things are getting very mucky in the comments section. I'm going to need a defining vote now. If one more person says Primal, we're going Primal. If 2 more people say Outcast, we're going Outcast. If 2 more people say Sorcerer, we're going Sorcerer. Right now, the Hungry and the Dead aren't even getting a look in on this particular game. And Bromeliad is saying Primal. Sold to Bromeliad and Jason Schmidt. We've got Primal. Adam Hill is going in with the Primal as well. It's a day for Primals. There we go. So, lineage path, Primal. You can't tell that when I was a child at school, I used to get bullied horribly for the slowness of my voice, and I have spent the majority of the rest of my life overcompensating for that. So now we look at Family Path. Now we look at Family Path, and what we're going to see. Well, we've currently had suggestions for Raptors and Primal, Raptors and Hides, and that means we are looking at some kind of draconic, reptilian, avian Primal if we're going for Raptor, or we're going for some kind of mutant William Birkin leader Hulk type if we're going for Hyde, or of course Mr. Hyde if you want to be traditional about it. Now, note that in all of this, I have not started talking about the attribute spreads that these are going to give us, the skill spreads. That's all absolutely fine. We will get to those in a minute. Right now, these are the cornerstones, the foundation blocks, if you like, of what our character is going to be. Currently, we have a Primal. And let me see if I can zoom in a little for those of you who are hard of sight. We can zoom in a little. I'll go in a little further. There we go. Okay, Primal explores the outside. You know what? I am tempted, Jonathan. I'm tempted to go for a Raptor here because I don't think I've really spoken about the Raptors at length. Did I do a video on the Raptors? I must have by now, surely. Okay, so we have our Raptor. Now we are going to look at skills. So, when creating a character in Curseborne, you need to allocate a major path. You either select your lineage or your family as your major path. These have major implications on powers you can access, the skill points you purchase at character creation, and so on. So let me break down for you the big differences. When speaking about lineage and family, as a primal, I'm going to take you through some of the primal systems. And I'm also going to put some fears at bay here. Because some people say, well, there's so many options, so many choices in Curseborne. How am I supposed to keep track of all of them? And the good news is you don't have to keep track of all of them. That isn't the point. You simply record the parts that are pertinent to your character. Everything else you forget. I compare it a little to games like Monster Hearts and Urban Shadows. While our system is certainly deeper, more robust, I guess, than having skins for your characters, you only ever in those games look at the skin for your character. In pretty much every game, you're only ever looking at your powers, and that is going to be the case here. Now, when you're playing a primal, you have access to a wild form. You can, as a reflexive action, which is something you can do multiple times in a round, technically, you bleed a curse die. You always start off with one curse die. And various actions in the game can unlock further curse dice, up to 5 in Entanglement 1 games. Your body rapidly shifts, your skin splits, your bones twist, your muscles bulge. Most characters can't transform in silence. It's a painful experience unless you bleed a further curse die to do so. Now, when you transform, you're not transforming simply into an animalistic version of your character. You don't simply become a snake, let's say, because you're a raptor or a bird. Your primal form, your wild form, is monstrous, it's chimerical, it is elemental. And so you can well imagine that a raptor in wild form is going to look somewhere between lizard and bird, something quite draconic, wyvern-like perhaps. But also raptors, just as all primal do, have something of the elemental about them. Most raptors have something based around radiance, illumination, light. They have the power to vanquish darkness. It is an ancient power because they are the oldest of the primal families. Now, when you choose to transform into your wild form, you can take 2 lineage shifts because you have a list of options for your primal lineage and 2 family shifts. And you can exchange these traits during play by bleeding a curse die. So if you don't want that extra arm right now, you put it away and now you can suddenly breathe fire. So the primal wild form list includes +1 enhancement that stacks on all physical actions, +1 enhancement that stacks on all influence actions relating to intimidation, +1 enhancement that stacks as offensive actions, regenerate 1 injury at the end of the round unless it comes from an attack using the magical tag, any of the 4 shifts applied a second time, or distraction, which is a physical combat trick, can also be an influence trick. Now, I don't expect all of you to understand what all of these things are at this time, but every single one of the shift tables has 6 options. And at this stage of the game, I might note down on my character sheet, for example, that for my first shift in the game, I'm going to prep myself up for being physical based. So we're going to say that I'm going to take the +1 enhancement that stacks on all physical actions. For the time being, I'm just going to put this in inheritance. And I'm going to go for distraction being an influence trick as well as a physical trick. Now, what else? Well, being a raptor, I also get 2 options from the raptor list, which includes 1 natural armor. Unarmed attacks have the deadly and elemental attunement light and deadly tags. Unarmed attacks have the heavy weapon and reach tag. The perfect specimen investigation trick yields 2 tags instead of 1. This is a trick that basically allows you to find evidence very well. You can purchase a new combat trick, Impose Radiance, that blinds and overstimulates people when you wash over them in Radiance. Or you can fly at normal movement speed. Well, I'm definitely going to go for fly at normal movement speed. We're dragon, for Christ's sake. And I like that combat trick, Impose Radiance, partly because I wrote it, but in the end, I just find it's a lot of fun. Being able to impose Radiance, you basically wash blinding light over everybody in the area. It's really quite fun. So, those are the wild forms we will be going with at the beginning of the game, but you can choose these, you can switch them around whenever you like, and right now I'm just noting them down for reference. That is one aspect of being a primal. Other things to note. When a primal is in wild form, they will gain +1 difficulty to influence actions that aren't related to intimidation. You cannot pull your punches in combat, in other words, you always have to try and do full damage. You also suffer complications on non-attack actions when challenged, otherwise you will feel compelled to slaughter. And you also suffer complications when any of your bond mates are hurt in the same area as you, because you will feel compelled to assist them. Now, you also gain primal senses. Again, this is more traits, and you can have them in a handy cheat sheet. That's what I suggest when you're playing a primal. You just have all of these on one page of A4. You've got your wild form, you've got your complications, your primal sense. That is it. Primal sense, at the start of any scene, a primal can bleed 1 curse die to ask the story guide one of the following questions. What here is the greatest threat? What here is more powerful than me? What here is weakest to me? Who here is scared? Who, if anyone here, is hurt or suffering a disease? Who here has a strong bond to another person present? You can also come up with other questions that tie into being a predator, basically a primal, and being able to sense people's strengths, weaknesses, ties, and so on. So, let's get back to skills. I just wanted to go over those aspects of character creation because those are things that are innate to every single primal. Now, we need to note that having taken Primal as one of our paths, we have the path skills of Athletics, Close Combat, Science, and Survival. We pick 3 of them. And so we know we're going to want Survival, so I'm going to put a dot in that already. We know we're going to want Close Combat because we are a prepper, and we know we're probably going to want Athletics as well because we're a prepper. We're going to leave Science for the time being, I think. We also, if we have major path attributes, if we choose lineage as our major path, we are going to gain more dots in our major path attributes. If we choose it as our minor path, we gain fewer dots in these path attributes. So, we're going to have a big question on our hands in a minute. Do we want Primal to be our major path, or do we want Raptor to be our major path? Here is a big deciding factor. If you choose Primal as your major path, you gain a major path inheritance, which is: the creature heightens a primal senses, driving them to curiosity and exploration. These exceptional hunters and trackers can't miss the smallest clues. When taking an action to hunt or track a target, add the primal's entanglement as hits that apply before the roll. This is one of the very, very rare examples in Curseborne of an ability that gives you hits before you've even rolled. Enhancements always apply after you've rolled, if you score 1 hit. Additionally, the first time in a session a primal gains a piece of evidence, they may gain a second without spending anything to do so. So if we think our Doomsday Prepper is a tracker type, a hunter tracker, then this major path inheritance is going to be very, very handy. And I want people to think about that. So everyone pay attention, because we are now going to jump ahead to what our options are if we go for Raptors as our major path. For one thing, our path skills would be Empathy, Esoterica, Leadership, and Survival. Now, I'm not sure. As a Doomsday Prepper, I don't think Empathy is necessarily there. I think Esoterica, Leadership, and Survival, so we can take Survival again. So I'm going to just put 1 dot in each of them again, just to remind myself that I've got these options. Okay, so you take 3 out of the 4. And here's the major path inheritance for Raptors. And so this is going to be the big decision. Do we go for the enhanced tracking of being a Primal first, or do we go for what the Raptors have? Your knowledge of curses allows you to see how it weaves in and out of everyone's lives. Once per session, as a simple action, you steal a curse from someone else in the scene. Gain a number of curse dice up to your entanglement. If the victim is a supernatural, this provokes an esoteric action clash, so they can resist it against your integrity. Against their integrity, I should say. Further, you gain +1 enhancement to close combat within liminalities, which is really interesting because our character, as you, the viewers, have designed it, is a Doomsday Prepper who is interested in exploring liminalities. So, do we want a character that is an expert tracker, or do we want a character who is more hardy, I suppose, in liminalities and can steal curses from other people? What are we thinking? So let's go to the chat. Hi, Livia. So yeah, Victoria suggesting tracker is more of a Doomsday Prepper thing. I would agree. It really depends on whether we see this character as being on the early side of being a Primal, I suppose. Is he still, or she, they, a Doomsday Prepper before, and therefore, more importantly, being a Primal? Or would we say that the Raptor aspect, the liminality aspect, is more defining? So, James Ellsbury says, I don't know, stockpiling curses kind of works. It does. DJ Kehoe is also leaning towards tracking, so once again we're entering auctioneer mode, because currently we have 2 votes for tracking, and we have 1 vote for stockpiling curses. Do we have anyone else? Do we have any other bidders? Right now we are looking at 2 votes for tracking, 1 vote for stealing curses. Going once, going twice, and Jason Schmidt is in just before the end of the auction, and Jason Schmidt is voting for Curse Thievery, prepares themselves to hoard what they can, says Jason Schmidt. And now Peter says, I'm on tracking. Lee Taylor adds to that, I'm on tracking. Is there anyone else throwing in a bid on this auction? Oh my, another vote here from Louis Garcia for stealing curses. Joshua FLCL wants, I think, tracker as well. The base prepper has bigger influence. Serendipitous is also going for tracking. And now we've got everyone commenting. Jonathan Kinziski wants stealing curses. Anonymous wants tracking. Tracking still has the edge here. I think sold to the trackers. Those of you who think our character is going to have major path, Primal. So I'm making a note. And to remind myself, up here on my character sheet, there we go. Primal is our major path. So let's get back now to character creation, because when you take a major path, it basically it will affect the number of skill points you have for the skills related to your major path, if that makes sense. So as an example, if Primal is our major path, which is what we've chosen here, we are going to have, let's see, I will get the exact number of skill points for us. Because this didn't change. This didn't change. Okay. So, as it's a major path, we get 6 skill dots to be distributed among our skills, our major path skills. So we've already gone 1, 2, 3 with athletics, close combat, and survival. I know I've got some people watching live right now, Victoria, who really like to optimize their characters. I don't think our Doomsday Prepper is necessarily a street fighter. I'm happy to bump close combat up to 2 and athletics up to 2. Athletics, in fact, I would suggest makes a little more sense. Survival is clearly where it's at. Right now, then, we've got 2, 4, 6. That one came from a minor path. So that's our skill dots. That's our skill dots for our major path. But do not despair. We also have 10 attribute dots, which can be distributed among the attributes linked to our major path. So, right now, we start with 1 dot in all attributes, as is custom. And by taking Primal as our major path, we gain 2 more to put across mental, which I would suggest as a prepper is probably cunning and resolve. We gain 6 across physical. That is no small thing. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say stamina. Oh, stamina is very important. It doesn't want to click. Stamina is very important for a prepper. So I'm going to go for that. That's split there. And we get another 2 in social. Composure, and I think presence. This isn't a character who necessarily manipulates others, but is certainly intimidating to behold, and that's what presence allows us to do. Now, if we had taken Primal as minor path, we would have had 3 in physical, 1 in social. So that is our major skill points and major path dots done. However, we now have our primal dots, so let's deal with them. So, we took our raptor dots, so we'll deal with them. This is a minor path, so when you have a minor path, you have fewer skill dots. Minor paths give you 3 skill dots, so we've already put 1 in survival, 1 in leadership, 1 in esoterica. I'm good with that. I would be tempted to take 1 out of leadership and put another 1 in esoterica, but I know there are more points to come, so let's not worry. So we also gain 1 in mental, 2 in social as a raptor. I'm very tempted to balance out mental. I'm not a big fan of really balanced characters, but I don't think you'd survive in the wilderness for long unless you have some intellect. So that's 1 in mental, 2 in social. Quite unexpected. I'm going to really rack up presence and composure there. Okay, so those are the dots assigned for our primal path, our raptor path, but wait, there's more. Survivalist is also a minor path. Remember, we chose a role path to go with this, and just like all other minor paths, we gain 3 attribute dots, and we will gain 3 skill dots. So, let's get those assigned. In fact, you know what? I have undersold myself. No. Haha. It is not 3 attribute dots. It is 4 attribute dots. And for raptors, let me just get those up. So a raptor. Okay, so we need to put another dot in physical. Alright, let's put our last one in might, I think. Okay, there we go. Right. Now, where were we? Yes, the role path. So, role path means we're going to get another 4 attribute dots and another 3 skill dots. Here is where I'm going to bump up. Well, we've got survivalist as our role path. I think we're going to have to go all the way up in survival. Yeah, hell. We have lived out in the wilderness for quite some time. So that's 1, 2, and 3 for ranged combat. Helps to be able to shoot things if you're living out in the wilderness. This character may be a bit of a loner. A bit of a kook, you could say. And as for the 4 dots spread between survivalist attributes, I think we're going to bump up resolve. You have to have a resolve to live out in the middle of nowhere with no one around you. In fact, I'm going to bump up resolve twice. And I am going to put the other 2 in might and stamina. This is a forest-dwelling Hulk. This is a forest-dwelling Hulk with these stats, my goodness. We are not done completely with skill dots and attribute dots because you also get personal dots that you can assign. So, as an example, when you finalize your statistics, you get to assign 4 additional skill dots. And I think attributes are done, sorry. You get 4 additional skill dots, and then we will have contacts. So, our 4 additional skill dots, I think what we'd be looking at here, let's give this character at least some facets. I want to go for artistry. Only 1 dot, mind you, but this character still has an interest in artistry. Maybe he whittles things when he's alone. I know I'm very much leaning towards this character being male, but it doesn't have to be. And also another 1 in esoterica, if I'm interested in liminalities. I'm going to go for another 2 in esoterica. Finally, what should the last one go in? Larceny, because occasionally they have to steal something to survive out here, or medicine, for being able to exist out in the wilderness with very little to aid them. What are people thinking? Could even be science. We've got 1 more dot. Lee Taylor asks, maybe they were a pilot before becoming a prepper. James Ellsbury is saying medicine for first aid. DJ Kehoe is agreeing. You concur. Medicine it is. All right. That is good. Skills and attributes done. Next up, let's move over to Torments. Okay then. So when you create a character in Curseborne, you get to choose a personal torment and an accursed torment. When you play up your torments, that is a very good way of earning curse dice in this game. At the start of this game, we are Entanglement 1 and we have 1 curse die. As Victoria in the chat has pointed out, it isn't difficult to earn more curse dice if you're prepared to throw yourself in dangerous situations, put yourself at risk, that kind of thing. So, our accursed torment, first of all. We have a few suggestions in the Primal chapter. Literally 3. For instance, and I'd like those of you watching to make a decision here. What is our prepper's accursed torment going to be out of these 3? We've got Elemental Fury. Primal are thunder, earthquakes, and hurricanes given form. They are rage at an elemental level. Nature does not respect self-control and human codes of loyalty. It destroys. When the character is in combat, they can trigger this torment. The Primal hyper-focuses on the biggest, most deadly target in the area, preventing her from assisting or interacting with allies until they're in the way. In which case, she gruffly orders or throws them aside. So that's Elemental Fury. Next up, Predator's Colours. Primals struggle to conceal their bestial natures at the best of times. Losing, making an error, or being mocked or made to look a fool forces a Primal to reveal their predator's colours. When the character appears weak, this can be through a failed action, taking damage, an unresolved complication, or simply through roleplay, they can trigger this torment. The Primal immediately lashes out wildly, verbally or physically, especially against people who are close. So that's Predator's Colours. Finally, Proteus Abides. The wild form of some Primal is truly a thing of elemental chaos. If the character has this torment, they can choose for the story guide to nominate the 2 shifts from their lineage selection and the 2 shifts from their family selections. The player can alter the choice by bleeding 1 curse die and taking a reflexive action as normal. In other words, whenever this character shifts into wild form, it can be up to the story guide to choose which traits you gain. That is a real wild card option. It's like playing a wild mage as a Primal. So we have Elemental Fury, Predator's Colours, and Proteus Abides. Anytime you succumb to a torment, you gain 1 curse die or 1 momentum. So what are people looking at? I can see here Anonymous says there seems to be a lot of dots. How effective is 5 dots in an attribute here compared to World of Darkness? It may look like a lot there. It will certainly be a lot, Anonymous, if we pair stamina with survival, let's say. But a dice pool of 6... again, this is only if we pair stamina with something, isn't huge. And if you recall, in World of Darkness, it was 753 across attributes. Right now, what we are looking at is 9, 4, and 5. So it's slightly more weighted, but we've got fewer skill dots in total. So it kind of evens out. Wow, okay, lots of people going for Proteus Abides here in the chat. We have Serendipitous wanting Proteus Abides. Crew Pignat wants Predator's Colours. Lee Taylor, Elemental Fury. Elemental Fury again from DJ Kehoe. Chris Matoski, Proteus Abides. Jonathan, Proteus Abides. Their time in shifting liminal spaces has changed them. James Ellsbury, Proteus. The others don't seem to mesh with this level of composure. Anonymous, I'm all for Proteus Abides. Proteus Abides it is. Okay. So, I may well have just recorded my favourite shifts, but you know what? Now this is the story guide's problem. Okay. And hello, Roy. My pleasure for doing this live stream. Thank you very much for watching it. So now we get on to our personal torment. And personal torments are considerably more customizable. This, again, can earn you a momentum or a curse die when you succumb to them. There are various suggestions in the book, but you can come up with your own. Suggestions include indulge in my desire for violence, shut down and become cold and emotionless toward friends. That sounds like something a prepper would do. Go off alone because my curiosity is greater than my self-preservation. I think my self-preservation is pretty damn high if I've got 5 dots in survival and 5 in stamina. Tug a mystery's thread despite the risk of the entire web unravelling. I know a lot of players who have taken that personal torment. Allow no act of humiliation or bullying to go unanswered. Provoke a chosen emotion, fear, sorrow, joy, anxiety from others. Draw attention to yourself out of neediness, especially at inappropriate moments. If you have the opportunity to use someone else's actions to elevate yourself, you do so. When you encounter something you've never experienced, reach out and interact with it. That could make sense for our liminal hungry raptor. Or push people away when they act on a positive attitude toward you. What are people thinking in terms of our personal torment? Yes, Anonymous. The dots work the same. The difficulties are you're looking for 8s and above in this game, rather than 6s and above. So the dots basically function the same. If you have 5 dots in an attribute and 5 dots in a skill, you're going to be rolling a dice pool of 10, which obviously increases your chances measurably. So right now we have a physical, I mentioned before, a Hulk, a Colossus type of character. So my feeling with personal torments is this is the kind of character who's going to reach out for danger and touch it, even if it's not advised. Because after all, we've got a character who, oh, well, look at that. We've got people really coming in as heroes now. Lee Taylor wants allow no act of bullying. Because they did it once, it got them into legal trouble. It's what made them become a prepper. Wow. They got in trouble with the law once and ran off to the woods. Probro Meliad, no injustice unanswered. People want to see a hero. This character may have to... you know what? I will copy and paste your text there, Probro Meliad. No injustice unanswered. There we go. Alright, fine. We will go for that. And that then takes us on to, well, we need to record our inheritance, don't we? Which we've already decided on because we went for our lineage path as major. So that means when taking an action to hunt or track a target, add the Primal's entanglement as hits that apply before the roll. Additionally, the first time in a session a Primal gains a piece of evidence, they gain a second without spending anything. So right now my entanglement is only 1. As you can see. So that means I gain 1 automatic hit, which means if it's a difficulty 0 roll, I'm doing well. Because it also means I'll be able to buy off any complications. So that's the inheritance. Now, what is the damnation of a primal? I don't think we've gone into that. Every single path has a damnation. Every single accursed being. And the damnation is what really sets you apart. Now, for the Primal, it is divided depending on which major path you chose. I'll give you some examples of what these damnations could manifest as. For example, if you're one of the 8 hands, they're arachnid shifters primarily. They shift into a bristling, 100-limbed arachnid. This is... Oh, sorry, I should actually tell you what qualifies you for the damnation. Your damnation triggers if your curse dice ever reach 0 in a session. So if you ever bleed that final curse dice, you may want to do so because you really need to activate a spell or something like that. Well, your damnation triggers. Of course, certain enemies can drain your curse dice as well, so keep that in mind. Anyway, so when a Primal loses their curse dice, they succumb to their major path impulse. Every one of them has an impulse. If it was an 8 hands, you shift into a bristling 100-limbed arachnid with grinding mandibles, which drips smaller spiders and leaks darkness with an impulse for secrets. You have to act to impose at least 1 injury and the immobilized status effect on a victim able to fight back, and then try prying a secret out of them. If this were a raptor as our major path, you shift into a winged draconic behemoth, a display of radiant liminal magic seeping through cracks in metallic scales with an impulse for legacy. In other words, you want to be remembered here. Act to impose at least 1 injury and the aggravated wound status effect on a victim able to fight back. Now, we chose Primal as our major path, which means we shift into a protean creature of rapidly changing size, form, elements, claws, and teeth with an impulse for destruction. Act to impose the mortally wounded status effect or reduce their injuries to 0 on a victim able to fight back. So, wow, we are a monster, it is fair to say. That is the major path impulse for the Primal. Okay, if Primal is your major path. So now that Damnation, Inheritance, Torments, skills and attributes are all done. What should we go for next? Edges or spells or contacts? Okay, so we've got 5 dots to spread between contacts. And I will note right now on contacts, they should be distributed among 3 contacts at this stage, and there should be at least 1 contact for each path. So let's do contacts first. Our primal contact. And we choose tags for these. We can add a tag for each dot we have in this person. What do you think? What is the... yes, there is indeed an Ananasi equivalent in this game, in the sense that the 8 hands are primarily arachnid, but they can turn into other grotesque bugs. So a doctor or nurse that helps keep him off the books, says DJ Kehoe. I feel that is the roll one, so let's go for that. Roll path. So we are going to go for Dr. Finley. Dr. Finley, friend from the service. Don't know which service, but I was in it. And so that is my role-based contact, and I'm going to give them 2 tags, I think. This person is going to come with the tags of informant. Maybe they tell us whenever an interesting patient has come in. And we also want, I'm going to call it security. That is the ability to heal us when we are severely dinged up, although that feels unlikely. Again, survival 5, stamina 5. But let's roll with it. Okay, what about our lineage contact and our family contact? What are we thinking there? So what else have we got here? Brober Ameliad says veterinarians are fun for off-the-book medical treatments. Dr. Finley is going to be a vet. Excellent. I love that. I love that idea. Ties very nicely into being a shapeshifter. James Aylesbury, some sort of mentor, can be a genuine or manipulative one from his family, or maybe a different primal. DJ Kehoe, cousin who's trying to get him back with the Raptor civilization. So, for family, I think lineage mentor. So we're going to go for lineage mentor of Elvis, who is an 8 hands broker. And a canonical character in the game, because I know who they are. We've already got informant, so even though Elvis is a broker, I'm actually going to go for dangerous. Their relationship is slightly different to a lot of those with Elvis. 2 dots there, so we've got 1 final one in the family, and this is going to be a cousin. Our cousin is going to be Emilio. A Raptor cousin. And I can assign 1 tag here. I'm going to go for supernatural. Maybe it was Emilio who dragged me into a liminality in the first place. Bonds we can ignore because we're not designing an entire crew right now of characters. So let's... And you'll realise, if you're familiar at all with the character creation process for Curseborne, I'm jumping all over the place. And I do this whenever I create characters for myself. I don't go from A to Z in the character creation manual. I go with what feels, I guess, organic and actually tells the story about the character to me. If I'm following this beat by beat as written, I end up feeling like it's more of a process than a brainstorm, and I like to brainstorm, so that's why I'm hopping all over the damn place. So now edges. Let's deal with edges, shall we? In Curseborne, you gain 5 edge dots, and we will also gain 3 spells. Now, edges come in different forms. There are action edges, influence edges, investigation edges, supernatural edges. There are a good number of them in the core book. There'll be more in another book to come. First thing I'm going to look at here is supernatural edges. I love the primal specific ones. So for instance, we have Endless Rage. That is a 2-dot edge. You cannot be stopped. You may bleed curse dice 1 for 1 to reduce the difficulty of an action or a complication severity equal to the number of dice exchanged. You cannot expend more dice than your tolerance, and you cannot reduce difficulty below 1. In other words, you just keep going, keep going. And I love that dogged tenacity. I love that idea. It was one of the things I was thinking of as soon as I as soon as I saw so many suggestions for us to play a Primal. So that is 2 dots there. There is another Primal one, Animal Ken. I'm not interested in Animal Ken on this one, I think. I want to look at the action edges. For instance, we've got Ambusher here. Your character knows how to hold until the right moment to strike. You gain a hit, which basically a trick that costs you 2 hits called Hold. On the first round of Spotlight action, you may interrupt any other character's action to act before them. That sounds very appropriate for not only a raptor, but also a prepper. Because, after all, we have seen velociraptors in Jurassic Park many times. And that leaves us with 2 more points. Do I go for an action edge? I'm thinking something investigation related. This character is not social, and that's fine. I'm thinking we're going to go for logical leap. So what is logical leap? Well, that only costs us 1 dot, so I'm also going to go for quick read. Quick read is one of the most popular edges I've seen in the game so far. Logical leap, your mind leaps to correct conclusions even before you finish reviewing all the data. While making a research-based investigation action, you may spend a momentum to gain a lead rather than evidence as a result of a successful action. That basically shortens investigations. I think our character, while maybe not a skilled investigator in the real world, is very skilled investigating in liminalities. Quick read, you're the master of the cold read. Tiny details jump out at you as plain as day. The first time you encounter a story guide character in a scene, you may ask the story guide 1 question about small, mundane details you notice, which they must answer honestly. These could be things like, how do they take their coffee? What's their current mood? Do they have a connection to someone in the scene? Etc. And you can spend momentum to ask additional questions 1 for 1. I like that. I'm a big fan of quick read. And this takes us to spells. I see lots of people suggesting ideas while I've been rattling through. DJ Kehoe is in agreement. Ambusher as well. Nimble Defense. Nimble Defense would be a good one. I'll probably save up experience for that. Jason Schmidt says Determined Silence, which is tempting, I will say, given that my character is already on a ridiculously high composure and resolve. But no, we're going to stick with this, which takes us finally to picking the 3 spells we have access to at this stage of the game. We can purchase more spells as our character grows in strength. So, the Raptors gain access to a secret spell, which I'm quite fond of. It is called Personal Predator. And let me just find it for you. So, the Personal Predator spell is typically just a hungry spell, but Raptors have access to it as well. You have to bleed 2 curse dice to use it. But the character chooses a target other than herself within medium range, commanding the target's shadow to attack them. This creates an animated shadow that uses the Fright template and has the various qualities. The shadow remains physically connected to the target, causing the target to suffer the grappled status effect. You may wonder, why does this connect to our prepper at all? It's because it is liminal. It is a liminal spell. It is creepy, it is weird, and as soon as I saw that Raptors have this as a secret spell, I thought, if this character is steadily losing their mind, venturing into other realities, this is the strange kind of spell I could really see them using. So while it is a costly one, it costs 2 curse dice to use it. Basically, I think it's a really freaky spell that's appropriate for this character. So, there we go. So we have Personal Predator, animate a target shadow, and I will note down the cost. Oh, try to anyway. Bleed 2 curse dice. Wonderful. Okay, so now we will actually look at the Maelstrom spells. These are the spells that all Primal have access to. And there are 15 in the core book, so that isn't a small number at all. We have access to 2 of these, and my thinking, and any of those of you who have the Curseborne manuscript right now, you may want to look and choose one. yourself suggest them. But I'm thinking the Stranger practices more than Depthless, Fury, and Mutable Form, because again, we're leaning on this character being very liminal in focus. Therefore, I'm tempted to say Unreality. That's a bleed 1 curse die. When you activate the spell, determine what the onlookers perceive for the rest of the scene. An overgrown patch of vines, torrent of rain, raging fire. Other characters perceive the area as having an appropriate area effect and ignore it as much as possible. That really works for me, as this character wants to be isolated for the most part. So, change a target's perceptions. That is bleed 1 curse die. So we've got one more. And DJ Kehoe wants us to go for Brutality, which I wasn't thinking of. I think you know what, I'm tempted, given that we have gone pretty damn physical, to go for Force of Nature. Let's give ourselves a combat boost. I saw a character in the Curseborne game I ran last night use Force of Nature, and it was absolutely devastating. It is another bleed 1 curse die spell. Gain +1 enhancement on your unarmed attacks for the rest of the scene, as though your bare body was a weapon, and gain double 9s. So in Storypath Ultra, when you roll a 10, that counts as 2 hits. When you roll a 9, it usually only counts as 1. With Force of Nature, it counts as 2. Plus, your spell comes with the elemental attunement of your choice for the purposes of bypassing armor. So, it's a +1 enhancement and double 9s on close combats. On unarmed combat, I should say. And that is another bleed 1 curse die. So we haven't gone for any hold 1 curse die or the like, which means our character is going to be burning through curse dice at quite a rate, I can imagine. That's going to be fun. That is going to be fun. That means they are going to be triggering their damnation a lot. So, last few things then, in terms of character creation, is gear. So, gear is something you can optionally choose at this stage. I say optionally because I often go for equipment as something that is earned throughout game. You can also take heirlooms as gear. They are basically magical items. You pay for them in the same way as you pay for edges. In the world below, you might know, you always choose 2 useful items and 1 useless but incredibly situational item. In this case, as we went for no heirlooms, I'm happy to assume that our prepper has the very basics of what requires them to survive in the wilderness. So they're going to have a tent, they're probably going to have a rifle, they'll probably have a made-up club or crowbar, something that helps them hack people who trespass on their land, gas mask, radio. This is someone who probably lives out in a bunker, if not a shack. So the last thing I need to note, which I failed to do earlier, is this character's motif. So every character gets a motif, and a motif lowers the cost of a specific kind of spell, usually, although they can have various other effects. So Raptors have the choice of the following 3, and I'm going to go for one of them. When casting a spell with the emotional attunement, bleed 1 additional curse die to apply the overstimulating area effect to the area. That's not interesting to me, because I do not have any emotional spells. When casting a spell with the psychic attunement, bleed 1 additional curse die to apply the effect to an additional target in the area to whom you have a bond. Now, that would be helpful if I had more spells that were support spells, but they're not. So we look at the last one, which is what I was kind of building up to. When casting the Force of Nature spell, advances that require the holding or bleeding of curse dice require 1 fewer held or bled die for each advance. So I am just going to note that here. This is not a motif that is going to assist us. Can you see it? This is not going to assist us at the very start of the game. It's a motif I'm basically putting in the bank to be useful later. Now, this leads us finally to name. And aspirations. Aspirations you would fill in based on what kind of game you're playing, and you change them, not the long-term one necessarily, but short-term ones change every single session, typically. And they will help earn you experience during the course of the game. Oh, and I see I've got some questions in the chat. Jonathan Kidzinski says, in Unreality is so on point for this character. I agree. I think it's a really good spell for this character. Anonymous says, are you going to play this character in a stream, or is this just an example character? I'll save them, and if I ever play a game of Curseborne on stream, I will play this character. And Peter says, I assume it cannot decrease from 1 to 0. On that, I'm going to need you to specify what you're wondering cannot decrease from 1 to 0, because if we're talking about curse dice, they definitely can. And that is what triggers your damnation. So, character name now. This is when everyone throws out names that are utterly absurd and completely inappropriate for a horror game where we're playing a doomsday prepper who's exploring liminal spaces. So, have at it. Jason Schmidt. What was the cousin's name? Emilio. DJ Kehoe wants us to play Charles Lestrade. Peter, the motif, the curse dice. So if you cast Force of Nature, you bleed one less die, or am I completely off? Very good question. It can reduce it to 0, in theory. When casting the Force of Nature spell, its advances that require the holding or bleeding of curse die require 1 fewer held or bled die for each advance. So, as an example, this one will always cost 1 curse die, because this is not an advanced spell, this is the base level. But if I have an advance that would only cost 1, now it will cost 0 to use. Ham and Egg Sarni wants our character to be called John Hall. DJ Kehoe, Gabriel Stone. If there wasn't a point-and-click adventure named after Gabriel Stone and his adventures trying to foil the Knights Templar, there should have been. O'Sheen McColgan wants Wade Williams. Isn't Wade Williams an actor? I'm going to have to look him up now. Wade Williams. Yes, I thought so. He played the prison guard in Prison Break. We are not playing as Wade Williams in this game. You know what? Gabriel Stone is so highfalutin. I think Gabriel Knight was the point and click, and I was probably mixing it up with Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars. We're going to go for Gabe Stone. Because, you know, he's informal like that. Player name, Matthew, obviously. So, there we go. There is our character. Gabe Stone has been created. Our Doomsday Prepper, Raptor, with Primal as his major path. We have assigned skill dots, we have assigned edges, attribute dots, spells, entanglement, curse dice, torments, damnation, inheritance, and contacts. And there we go. Our character has been created. And this PDF will be saved and published to the Onyx Path Discord in the Curseborne channel. Should anybody wish to download a copy of Gabe Stone, they can absolutely do so and do whatever you so choose with him. I believe this is the first character created on stream for Curseborne, at least using the most up-to-date version of the manuscript. So if you've been looking for hints behind the curtain as to what Curseborne's revisions contain, this video may well have helped. And I anticipate that we're going to do more of these character creation sessions as the weeks go on. Next week I'll return with another guide to an accursed family, I'm sure, because we're very near the end of those. And there are lots of other Curseborne videos I have in mind based on your suggestions. But we will also do character creation sessions for other games. As I mentioned at the very start of this video, there were requests for a They Came From character creation session. Any of the They Came Froms. World Below has had requests as well. So lots of material we can go through here. So before we wrap up, does anyone have any questions regarding Gabe Stone or Curseborne or in general? And this usually provokes people to say, how's your day going? And how's the weather where you are? Anonymous, I assume you can't answer this, but would you happen to know when the pre-orders start shipping out? That's a fine question, Anonymous. It isn't that I can't answer it. Actually, no, it is that I can't answer it. Right now, I could not tell you because I do not know. It really all depends on the speed at which production occurs. I know art is being commissioned, and that once the art is in, layout will proceed. We already have lots of splendid ideas for that. And PDFs will, of course, go out to backers first of all. So if you have been on the fence with Curseborne, do pre-order at the PDF level if you want to see it early. And you can go on to the Curseborne backer kit. I've linked it in the video description below to pre-order a physical copy. The deluxe copies are still available to pre-order. They will not be available, so far as I'm aware, once the game is available in general. So if you want to pick up Curseborne, Onyx Path's new urban horror role-playing game, now is the best time to do it. And Anonymous is very excited. I am as well. Peter says, the first aspirations are always a problem for my players. Would you say it's on the ST, so the story guide, to come up with more hooks, or should they be more tied to the characters? I think to start off, it's good to tie them to the characters. In fact, for Gabe Stone, a short-term aspiration should be find a source of clean water. And this is me getting my Project Zomboid out. Short term, and also barricade the perimeter. Oh, and long term is going to be find a crew who will accept me. This is going to be a character who goes through a lot of solo play before he finally meets a bunch of friends. Anonymous says, if I'm allowed a second question, of course you are. Do you have any plans for Fae in this world, and are they closer to dreaming or lost? There are indeed plans for Fae in this game, and there are various hints as to who and what they are in the manuscript for Curseborne, and there'll be more and more Fae information, lore, mythos, and so on as the books go on. It is certainly the case that the vast majority of accursed see the Fae as either something mythical or something absolutely terrifying. So in that respect, I would suggest they're a little closer to true Fae from Lost than Seelie in Changing the Dreaming, let's say. But they will have their differences. Anyway, I will call it there if we have no further questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching this live. Really appreciated. Again, this PDF will be uploaded to the Onyx Path Discord, the Curseborne channel, so you can download it if you really want to. And we will do another character creation in the future. So thank you again so much, and see you next time.